If you're watching this, it means you've somehow come across to my little Facebook family out there. And in case you're seeing me for your very, very, very first time on the internet, my name is Prima. And I basically go through life and document what life teaches me. I have been trying to unfold the work of my life for the last 30 years. The very first moment that this work revealed itself to me was 30 years ago, when my mom practically got a mental breakdown. At that point, I was 13. And I watched my mom get a mental breakdown. I've watched my mom. I've watched her lose her life day by day. And it now makes sense to me why I had to see this, why I had to be part of this. And my whole calling and purpose in all of it. In case you're new to my work, I have been teaching strategies since COVID. I will just save you a lot of the story from 13 to maybe 6 years ago. I've been teaching strategy since COVID. Tell me where you're going. And if I have been there, we will create a plan to get you there. I basically go through life and then lead others through the things that I have been through. That's in short what my work is about. Doesn't matter what the topic is, but I like to create experiences around something that life has taught me, because at this point, I believe that when life allows me to go through an experience, I am being called to help one other woman in the world out there who is on their knees playing for this solution. So I taught strategy for a very long time. And then life started introducing me to a different kind of problem. There were moments when I had a problem, and it doesn't matter how many books I read, the problem didn't go away. It also didn't matter how many coaches I hired, the problem didn't go away. It didn't also matter like what proven frameworks and everything I tried to use, the problem didn't go away. There were people who had been extremely successful. They had proven all these modalities and these methods and these frameworks. And I got on those frameworks. I implemented them, but my problems stayed. And I didn't know it then, but then life was asking me to just go deeper, go beyond strategy, go beyond the framework, go beyond the book, go beyond the thing that has already been solved. I don't know if you've been through this, but sometimes life presents you a problem that no one has solved before. And at one point, you feel like maybe I need to create the solution for this. My brother got a mental breakdown and he was diagnosed with bipolar. And he did not want to take medication. He went through so much struggle, but he knew that deep inside him, he didn't want to take medication. Yes, he wanted to work on his problem, but he wanted something which was like more like, I think he'd watched my mom and what medication did to her, and he decided that he didn't want to take medication. So he took the medication once he was under attack, and after that, he was like, I'm actually not taking medication. It was a challenge for everyone because we didn't know, like, okay, so what's your plan? He also didn't know. But what he knew is that he wanted a solution where he could heal his body without medication. And eventually, he realized that nobody had created this kind of thing. And he understood that maybe he was the person being called to create this kind of solution. And as I speak, he's building that body of work because he's learned from everyone and everybody is not giving him what he wants, which is, I want to know how to manage my mind and how to eradicate this bipolar in my body without the medication. I don't know where he'll end, but I'm convinced that this is his calling and his purpose is to find himself a solution and share it with the world. So sometimes I think the universe, the world, brings a situation to you, and this situation practically forces you to find the answer. Anyhow, one thing led to another, led to another, led to another, and I found myself in these situations where I couldn't find the answer no matter who I hired. I entered the world of mentorship early on. I started reading books from people who had found the answers. I started learning from like some of these top experts through their books because initially I couldn't afford them. And so I started to learn a lot. I started to learn a lot of things earlier on, like even before I was 20. I started to understand how to create the life you desire. I started to learn things from mentors like Jonas Saraf, like Bob Proctor, like Jeff Crawford. These people who like had written the books. So I started to read them and I started to understand that there was another way. But life put me in a situation where I had no idea, like, has anyone solved this problem? And I'm sure that they have. I just couldn't land on the solution that was there, that existed at that point. And anyway, as I kept going through life, I realized that there were moments that were placed in my life, and those moments had no documentation of somebody solving that exact problem. And the more I read, the more I tried to get the next expert, the more I tried to hire the next coach, the more I looked for answers out there, the more my problem persisted. And so what I started to do was look at it like, okay, maybe I'm being called to solve this problem. And once I made that opening and opened myself up as somebody who could solve that problem, then somehow answers started to come. So what I like to do these days is document what I've done in those moments, which were what I like to call now the turning point. A point where you're being forced to author something. A point where you're being forced to access more of what exists within you. Because my belief is that we're born with potential and we never like get that potential until we are forced to get to that potential, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've had this if only. I had this thing called the if only. And I would go through life thinking, if only that thing could change, my life could be much, much better. So if only my money could get better, if only my partner could heal his traumas, if only, this thing could behave, if only I lived in a different country, if only this industry wasn't crowded. You probably come up with things like, if only my marketing was better, if only my sales were better, if only, whatever that situation is that you think, if only this thing was better, my life could be better. If only my in-laws could stay out of the way, I would have the best marriage ever. I don't know if you've been there, but I began to notice a trend that every time I had one of those if only moments, my life actually stayed the same. For every year I said, if only this thing could change, my life stayed the same. 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, and I was like, oh, okay, this thing is not giving me a different result. So every time I pointed at something outside of myself and I said, if only my money situation could change, my life could be better. If only this thing could be different. Every time I wished for that, my life stayed the same. And I'm not sure if you have an experience like that. You look back and it's been 10 years, it's been 15 years. No matter how much you read, how much you discover, how much you know, you might even understand the problem inside out, and it is not changing. No matter how much I wished things could be different, I still saw the same result. And I just want to share something personal in this moment because I feel like this was the turning point of the turning points. I believe in life, there's so many turning points, but there is one which is like a game of dominoes where when you pull one of them, everything else just collapses. Or imagine like a ceiling where if you pull one brick out of the ceiling comes crashing down. Or imagine like a wall which is created by bricks that are not held together. And if you pull one of the bricks out, everything just comes crumbling down. So I felt like life had given me enough clues about turning points. I feel like I had gone through a lot of turning points, but I quite never got the real hammer, the real turning point. You know, like that thing which shifts you and you cannot unsee that thing again. I feel like that's what happened. Because at 13, that is when I got my first turning point. I watched my mom get a mental breakdown. I feel like that is the time when life was saying, welcome to the work. I feel like that is the first moment that I was able to see something about the work of my life, even though I didn't know what it was at that point. I went on to get a job. And I remember feeling so depleted by my job that one day I just left. That was another turning point because leaving that job is what gave me permission to start my own work, to start creating my own work, to start venturing into things that I got interested in. My initial thing I did was style, like dressing men. Leaving my job is what gave me permission to do that. And then I remember in 2020, COVID comes and wipes me out of business. That was another turning point because that season, when COVID made it impossible for me to have an offline business, is what pushed me online, which is what helped me meet all these amazing women I have met along the way. And then I remember in 2022 losing a 6-figure business. It was all about strategy, how to make money, how to grow your brand, how to make money being you, how to make money selling whatever you sold, how to make money through your life experiences. This is what I taught to a 6-figure business. But it was a business that was built on frameworks and strategy and all these things. This is a plan to move from A to B. You do this and do this, action plans. That was a business. It was a business that was just about what to do, just about what box to tick, just about what framework, what formula. It was like, I don't know if I can call it a surface business, but it was like a business which was just all about structure, frameworks, solutions. That business, I lost that income and I was like, oh, whoa, what happened? I feel like that was another turning point that was inviting me into what I do now, which is, yes, strategy is cool. Yes, frameworks are cool. Yes, everything is out there. But what happens in those situations where you know what to do? You've read the books. You've even helped people go through maybe something like that, but your problem stays. What happens when you've read every book, hired everyone, tried everything, and your business is still the same? What happens when you've learned everything you can about conflict? When you understand everything about communication, active listening, and all of the things, and still your marriage stays the same? You argue about the same thing for 15 years. When you've done everything that you can, you've prayed, you've done the work, but still you're having the same argument that you had 15 years ago. What happens then? What happens? The very thing that you know if it's not working. I've even had conversations with women who are like, Prima, I have helped dozens and dozens of women through this problem, and now this problem has me by the throat. Like, there is people I have spoken to and they've set free people. Like, I have solved problems that saved marriages. I can't even begin to explain to you how many marriages I have saved. But I look at my own marriage and I wonder why this doesn't apply there. Sometimes it happens in business. You give other people business advice and it works for them and it doesn't work for you. What happens when you know what to do What happens when you're doing it? What happens when you've read the books? What happens when you've had the mentors? What happens when you have done the work to the best of your knowledge and you still do not see a change? I became fascinated with that kind of work. Like, I became fascinated with this point where we can have all the strategy and everything and the problem and still look you in the mirror because it is a gift that is wrapped in sandpaper. So I want to share something like very personal to me. There was a season in my marriage where we had what I like to call volcanic arguments. Out of nowhere, we would be peaceful, we would be just there. The way we knew each other, very peaceful, very supportive, everyone meant good in that relationship. And out of nowhere, we could like start an argument. I used to be the person who would like start the thing. It could start from a sock, the floor could start from a cup that is in the wrong place. It could start from anything that I watched, and I thought, no way, like this cannot be happening. It would start from anything. I would hit a wall, like, okay, if we're trying to build a life together, there are certain things which we shouldn't have to argue about. Like, it should be very obvious for you that this is not acceptable. Like, I would hit a wall over something as small as a sock on the floor. And from that wall, I would speak. And whatever hit down at my partner, it produced chaos. He was trying to defend his point of view. I was trying to defend my point of view. And none of us got anywhere. I knew deep inside that we all wanted the same thing. We wanted growth, we wanted peace, we wanted love. We probably wanted to be heard and understood. We meant good. But I don't know that we had what it took to bring that out clearly. I don't know that I had the ability to communicate a boundary or a need without making my partner wrong. I don't know that I had that because every time I tried to speak about what I wanted, I just blamed my partner. And I was like, why doesn't he get it? Anyway, I would hit a wall. I would communicate from that wall and he would miss the entire point. And what he would do is he would drop into ballista mode. It's a ballista. So it was very easy for him to flip into ballista mode. And he would try to put his point across. And I would try to speak up for myself. I don't know what happened in that moment, but everything I knew about communication, active listening, it's like it went straight out of the window and left my brain. So I was in this box, and this box was I have to speak up for myself. That was the only thing I had access to. I saw a point, and I tried to make him see the point, and he didn't see the point, and I stayed in that box as long as I did. Everything else that I knew, the books I had read, the experts, what they said, the frameworks, the what, everything jumped out of the window for at least 5 minutes when I was determined to put my point across. The more he defended himself, the worse it got. We started raising voices at each other until I think finally for him, he would be like, okay, I give in. And he would really apologize for what he didn't even understand. Because at that point, like no one of us even understood, like, what are we even arguing about? But Ma would just say, okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Can we just stop arguing? And what I would feel in that moment is anger. Like, what are you even apologizing about? You didn't even understand my point. I can't begin to explain to you how tense that was. But in my observation from where I stood, he was avoiding the topic. He was not understanding. He was not listening, and was certainly not moving forward because of this behavior of every time I tell you something, you just defend yourself, you avoid the topic, and you apologize. Like, how do we move through life like this? You got tired of argument and you just said, you know what? I'm sorry. I just can't go through this volcano. Like, let's just not do it. Let's just not go through this conversation. And eventually I'll just give up, and then I would distract myself with like a book. I would get a book and I would start reading about conflict management. I would take up a course, so whatever. Like I would just say, okay, cool. I'm defeated. I'm going to go away and learn more about conflict management, because I felt like that was the thing. Like I felt like, why is conflict so hard around here? So in 5 minutes, I would just take my attention back and I would go focus on something else. So what happened for him is he didn't just flip like that. He didn't flip the switch. He kept in the pain. He sat in the pain. He slept in the pain. He couldn't even get himself to go to the meetings he had scheduled. I think it cost him so much energy that he just couldn't move on. Like for me, I had this switch, which I would just flip and I would just go back. He couldn't. Like he just stayed in that pain. He stayed in that mood. He canceled his meetings. Clients got angry. People canceled. People left. And every time we had those 5 minutes of a heated argument, I could see that we had a minus in the revenue that was coming through. It was costing us clients. Because while I could have this argument, dust myself off, breathe, and go and meet a client, I couldn't. He would say, sorry, I can't do the call. And sometimes it was so last minute, the client would get angry, clients would refund, clients would leave. And now I started to notice that every time we had this 5 minutes argument, we had a 4-figure minus in the recurring revenue that we had. And I knew that eventually we will just be homeless if we keep doing this, because it cost us 4 figures every time. The more books I read, the worse it got. The more I began to teach myself about this situation, the worse it got, because now my judgment raised. Because I was like, I really get it. I get what is happening to him. I get what is happening in his head. Like I began to like now see the problem. But again, my judgment kept up. Like I kept saying, but this is because he's not doing this, he's not doing this, he's not doing... It doesn't matter who I hired, it just got worse. This went on for at least 2 years. Then one day, I can't remember what happened exactly. But one day, I read somewhere, it must have been like a quote. Somebody put like a quote. I'm trying to scratch my head. It must have been like somebody I was following on Twitter who wrote a quote that whatever you're manifesting in your life, you're either bleeding it, you're causing it, or you're tolerating it. I was like, what? Whatever the result is, you're either causing it, you're either bleeding it, you're either tolerating it, or you emerge for that experience. And I think for me, that was it. That was the switch. I started to look in the mirror. I started to look at, okay, how am I contributing to these volcanic arguments in my home? I said, if Matt was fine, if he didn't have any problem, if he didn't have anything, what is my part of this thing? And I began to see my subtle judgment. My point was right and his point was maybe wrong. I started to see my subtle desire to control the outcome. I wanted us to grow. I wanted us to be better. I wanted to save this thing. And meanwhile, it was my way or the highway, because I didn't even think that he had a way. We were going to get this thing. I had this vision and this place where I was going. And it's like I was running over my partner to get there. So my control, my fear of losing the marriage and acting from a place of fear. I am trying to do this not because I'm coming from a place of fear of like this marriage mate go down a path I'm not prepared to go for. And I started to see like my failure to communicate my boundaries, because every time I opened my mouth, for me to communicate my point, I had to incriminate my partner. So I began to see my part of how I was sabotaging love. I began to see my participation in this loop that I didn't want. And this is when things started shifting for me. I honestly believe that this was the turning point, biggest turning point of my life. Because when I look back, this was the turning point I struggled with the most. When my mom got a mental breakdown, I was like, okay. It was very easy for me to accept it. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't see the activation that I was receiving, but I was like, okay. When my job ended, I was like, okay. I flipped into my other business and I moved on. When COVID came, I was like, all right, time to go online. Like those turning points were very easy for me to navigate. When I lost my 6-figure business, I struggled a bit. And then I was like, okay, what's the advantage that can come out of this? And then I discovered that there was a layer deeper that I was being called to navigate. So that wasn't also as hard. This turning point, this one here, I think this was the one, like the domino, the one that pulls everything down and forces you to look back and say, actually, I think this is the work. I think this is the work that is being called to come through me. And now that I look back, like every time there was a turning point, there was a little gift wrapped in sandpaper that I couldn't see the gift inside. But if I allowed the gift to unfold, it eventually did. They looked like big losses at first, but in high insight, when I look back, all these were turning points. All these were invitations. All these were gifts that were wrapped in sandpaper that I couldn't see. Life was asking me to go a layer deeper into accessing the potential that I had within me, but I couldn't see. It was all a step in the right direction. I just never had the eyes to see it. I didn't. I saw a lost job. You know, I saw my mom, losing my mom. I saw a high conflict marriage. I saw a loss in 6 figures. Now I look at it and I'm like, what a gift. Your turning point might look different. It may be an argument that you keep having with your partner that you can't quite get. Like, why are we still here after 15 years? It may not even be a marriage. It may just be relationships. You keep attracting the same toxic people, the same people that are emotionally unavailable, the same people that are in a way that you don't want, that you keep manifesting relationships that you don't want in your life. It could be the resentment you've built about your kids, maybe. Maybe your teens are driving you to the wall. It could also be a business that has stalled for years. Like you've been trying to hire mentors, do this, do that, but the results never change. You've invested so much and it's been so many years and you're like, what do I do here? There's nothing I have not done. There's no books I have not done. There's no healing I have not done. Why isn't my business still giving me breadcrumbs? It could be like that. It could be a pattern that you seem to see, but you can't crack. It could be like you get money and then you lose the money. It could be like, I make so much money, but it all goes out of the window. I do not know what your turning point is. I don't know. Maybe it's your health. Maybe something else. I don't know what is the thing in your life that you feel that you're bringing to your life or that is occurring to your life that you know you don't want. I don't know what the pattern is. I don't know what the turning point is. I don't know what the invitation is for you, but we all have one of those where you can read all the books and hire all the mentors. You can say all the prayers. You can heal everything that you have to heal. And the pattern keeps looking you in the face. I like to call these moments the turning point. So the turning point is a conversation I wish I had when I was 13, to be honest, because that is the first time that I started seeing this work reveal itself to me. I wish that somebody had given me this lens at 13 because I believe that I could have saved time maybe. What I'm doing in 30 years, I probably could have done in less than that because this is the time when the work of my life began unfolding in my eyes. And then it just started getting deeper and deeper and deeper at every stage. You know, the other day I was talking to a lady, and she had been in an abusive marriage for 3 years. It was so bad. She was bruised, like her face had been bruised, her nose had been broken. Somehow she had her reason why she couldn't leave the abusive marriage. And she stayed there for 3 years. I've never been in an abusive marriage, so I don't really have a lot of context. But she had been in this marriage. It was abusive, and this may be triggering. So you may want to forward this for maybe 5 minutes. This marriage was very abusive, and she had literally started being deformed. Like the husband would beat her, would break her nose, would what? And one day, she had enough. She had enough, and she went to the police, and she told them. They got the man and put him in jail for 3 years. And after like a week or so, she decided to share this story on LinkedIn. She puts her pictures of before she met the guy and now where she was. And she just was talking to women. She said, I don't know who it is, but I feel like this could help somebody. And then she talked about her reason why she stayed in the abusive marriage. She said, I didn't even know that I could stay in an abusive marriage. I couldn't know that I could really stick in this situation, but it's been 3 years. This is me before, and this is me now. And she just put it out there. And off of that, she's been able to build a 6-figure business because people keep hiring her to talk about domestic violence. This was her turning point, but it came in form of an abusive marriage. She could have never thought that there was anything good that was going to come out of this. There's another lady that was in my private client container, and she had issues with her in-laws. She'd been married for 10 years, and her in-laws, it's like they hated her from the time they saw her. She's like, I don't understand why my in-laws just can't leave me alone. My marriage could be much better if my in-laws weren't involved. And I remember we had this conversation around, what if this was a gift in disguise? What if your in-laws were literally this black belt trainer sent in your life to show you something? We started to do the work. And I think after 8 weeks, she was like, I have never seen the turnaround that I see in my in-laws now. I could never have thought that I was the reason that everybody was against me. So when she did the work and she began to get out of the way and she began to judge less and she began to really focus on her participation in the equation, what happened is her in-laws couldn't have anything to fight with. And they were like, oh my God, have you guys seen her transformation? And this has unfolded for me in private conversations in different ways. Sometimes it was business. I have done this, built the funnels, done the healing, walked through the blocks and all of these things, and I'm still here. My business is not further forward. We got to the turning point, and boom. One small change, and people's businesses did better in 1 month than they did in a year. I have talked to women, more women than I can even tell you in private conversations about this work. Before I saw it properly, I was doing it. Well, it's an argument like I had, repeated. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're still arguing about the same thing with your spouse. And one day, you see your own participation in this loop. You change your input, boom, see a different result. This work is endless. It goes round and round and round. It comes in different forms, in different areas of life, in different capacities. And I don't know that I know your situation or have lived your situation, but what I can say is that sometimes life is trying to unwrap a gift for you through what I like to now call a turning point. The point where once you see something, you cannot unsee it. It's like the game of dominoes where you're finally being invited to pull that last domino out of the whole pack. This is the conversation. It's a live conversation. It is 4 hours. It's one shift. one pattern. I do not know who needs to hear this, but I feel the pull to put it out in the world. So this is the first edition. The first edition is a free event. Free, it's 4 hours. Come and attend. There's a waiting list right now. I'll put the link somewhere above or below this video. If this is your event, I will see you at the event. If you know anyone that needs to be at this event, please share with them. I don't do so much to put my work out there. I would rather this work just penetrated into the right circles of women. So the way that my work goes is through women sharing the work. So if you feel like you know somebody who needs to be at this event, kindly invite them. These people who come to the event, they get their own transformation, and then they decide to share with another woman. So literally, this is how this work moves. One woman finds it and knows another woman who needs it. And the work keeps going and keeps going and keeps going to the women that need it, basically. My hope is that the right woman will somehow find themselves at this event. My hope is that this event touches the right people. This is the very first one I'm doing. I've never done this publicly before. And so I do not know if I will do more and if I will do them free. But what I do know is that waiting list is open and you can request to join now. And once everybody's allowed inside the community, you will be sent an email confirming that you are in. It's free, but you've got a request to join. And when the event is being delivered, you will get to know. That's it. For now, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. If you choose to share, please let me know in the comment section. I'd like to personally thank you. Thank you for your time. Happy Sunday. It's about 30 degrees here and 95% humidity. So you can imagine it's pretty hot. I will go and have a water. I love you, and I hope you have a beautiful day.